Takamura ran a generational 1v5 at the end of the Okutabi Museum arc, and it was absolutely insane. Sakamoto Days already has some of the best fights in all of new gen manga, and the Okutabi Museum arc stepped that up even further. Going from chapter 164 to chapter 167, Takamura faced off against Sakamoto, Nagumo, Uzuki, Gaku, and Haruma, bodying them all with next to zero difficulty, and today I just wanted to recount how incredible this fight was. By the start of the Okutabi Museum arc, readers hadn't seen Takamura since chapter 54, making him absent from the story for 86 chapters. And it wouldn't be until another 23 chapters into the arc that Takamura actually makes his appearance. Despite this, pretty much everyone already knew of Takamura's strength. Despite his limited showings, he was seen bodying Gaku effortlessly during the JAA invasion arc, and Uzuki himself decided to call off the entire operation once Takamura pulled up. The mystery of Takamura is built up further as Uzuki talks about how no one knows anything about Takamura, and that's pretty much the last we hear of him until chapter 163. Finally, the anticipation for the GOAT to arrive is released as Takamura is shown once more. You see a couple of X's goons chilling in a bathroom discussing how they haven't received any orders from Haruma before hearing some incoherent mumbling coming from a stall. One of the goons decides to pull a gun on the stall and starts firing before peeking through one of the bullet holes, only to be grabbed by the nose and held in place before having his head cut off by Takamura. Takamura makes short work of the other three goons before heading out to confront his main targets. Meanwhile, Sakamoto, Nagumo, and Uzuki, controlled by his Rion personality, are all busy discussing how, if the Rion personality just permanently takes over Uzuki's body, they might be able to avoid any unnecessary bloodshed. Their discussion is cut short, however, by an emergency JAA announcement stating that Sakamoto, Nagumo, and Uzuki have all been marked as Class A extermination targets, as Takamura appears on the glass ceiling above, putting a single cut into the ceiling and dropping right in the middle of all three targets. As Takamura prepares to draw his sword, Sakamoto, Nagumo, and Uzuki all attack it to stop him from swinging, but despite this, Takamura is still able to draw his sword and the other three fighters all back off as he swings. Unfortunately, Uzuki is caught as his left arm gets cut by Takamura before Nagumo swoops in to save him. Also, unfortunately, my GOAT is not locked in as he has a monologue about how he wants to save Uzuki for the sake of the Rion personality, which allows Takamura to catch him lacking as he cuts through Nagumo's dagger and puts a massive gash into his body. Sakamoto pulls up to fight and actually does pretty well as he dodges Takamura's slash, transforms into his skinny form, and launches Takamura outside the museum with a kick. Unfortunately for Sakamoto, Takamura happens to be him as he took zero damage from the kick and instead casually lands on the side of a bus. Sakamoto tells Nagumo that he needs to shut up because he's trying to lock in, before Takamura flies back into the museum, nearly speed blitzing Sakamoto with another slash that literally just deletes a chunk of a pillar, before blocking Sakamoto's overhead kick and sending another slash that tears up part of the museum. It's at this point that Sakamoto makes a somewhat contentious statement, saying that compared to when he was in the order, Takamura is way stronger. We then cut to see that despite Gaku's injuries, he's beginning to wake up too. Before Gaku completely wakes up though, we get to see Sakamoto swinging a museum sign at Takamura, which Takamura dodges, before slashing at Sakamoto and destroying another pillar. Sakamoto falls back and notes that after every few sword swings, Takamura sheathes his sword, so his objective becomes stopping Takamura from unsheathing his sword. As Takamura prepares for another swing, Sakamoto kicks the hilt of the sword to stop him, only for Takamura to just throw off the sheath and still swing. Sakamoto luckily dodges and decides that since he can't stop Takamura himself, he'll just target his katana, before breaking a museum exhibit to retrieve a knife and then starts scrapping with Takamura. Sakamoto is honestly doing pretty well as he grabs a nearby stanchion, wraps Takamura with it, and then kicks him to the ceiling. However, Takamura is still unfazed as he cuts through the ceiling once more to find Sakamoto flying at him. Takamura swings again, but this time Sakamoto is able to block it with a gun since he's been wearing down Takamura's katana. With Takamura's katana unable to cut Sakamoto, he fires a couple shots at him, only for Takamura to sharpen his katana with Sakamoto's bullets before landing a solid slash on him. Sakamoto drops to the ground as Nagumo rushes in with a fire extinguisher to temporarily blind Takamura, saying that his vision sucks and that he relies on sensing bloodlust. Sakamoto claims that he can still fight since its apron stopped the cut from being lethal, before Takamura appears behind Nagumo, only to notice Gaku flying at him through the smoke as he blocks yet another overhead swing. Nagumo is surprised to see that Gaku is still alive as Uzuki tells Gaku to run away, for Haruma drops in to help too. Meanwhile, Gaku is being stabbed in the arm by Takamura as he responds by kicking him away, while Haruma spikes a shot put at him, which Takamura casually cuts in half. Gaku and Haruma talk about how strong Takamura is, while Uzuki continues telling them to run away, to which Haruma just says no, since they won't be able to destroy the JAA without killing Takamura. Uzuki has a quick flashback to his time at the orphanage, as his young self talks to Haruma about how he doesn't feel like he belongs in neither the assassin nor the regular world, to which Haruma says that he kinda feels the same way and that they're birds of a feather. We cut back to the present as Haruma is sent flying back before Uzuki pulls up and says that since Takamura is super sensitive to bloodlust, he has a plan that he needs Gaku and Haruma to help him with. As Gaku and Haruma continue scrapping with Takamura, Uzuki uses his whip chain and wraps it around Takamura's sword arm, noting that since his intent was to immobilize rather than kill, Takamura wasn't able to detect the attack. Uzuki then throws his whip chain into an elevator as it starts going up, tugging Takamura along with it. Takamura is unable to break the whip chain as he gets tugged to the elevator door, before blocking the mace that Gaku threw at him. Once Takamura is backed into a corner, Gaku and Haruma pull up to really lay into him, only for Takamura to speak his first words of the series, saying that they all think he's senile, before cutting off the arm that's wrapped by the whip chain, reattaching it, saying that they're all scumbags and deserve to die, and then blitzing and cutting Haruma in half. After watching his friend get cut in half, Uzuki is left shocked and on the floor, as Sakamoto and Nagumo pull up to run it back with Takamura. Takamura blocks Sakamoto's table and dodges Nagumo's blade, as Nagumo thinks about how long he can last with his injuries. The two continue fighting Takamura as Sakamoto gets hit across the chin with Takamura's sheath, while Nagumo continues having his attacks blocked, before Gaku flies in to draw Takamura's attention. Rather than getting his face cut in two, Gaku instead tanks Takamura's blade with his mouth, breaking it in the process before grabbing Takamura and using the remaining piece of the blade to cut through Takamura's right eye and ear. Unfortunately for Gaku, he got impaled in the process and drops to the ground after his attack. Sakamoto and Nagumo watch in awe before being blitzed by Takamura again, this time being taken out of the fight, as Sakamoto notes that they're all dead since they can't beat Takamura. As Uzuki is seeing Takamura body all his friends, he starts tweaking while flashing back to some of his fonder moments. We get a quick shot of Gaku, Uda, Haruma, Kumanomi, and Rion in the past, as Uzuki screams about how someone always takes away his family, before complaining about a voice and asking who it is. Takamura takes this opportunity to finish off Uzuki, only for Uzuki to take his sword and cut Takamura in half with it, as it's revealed that Uzuki developed a new Takamura-based personality. So in the end, Takamura didn't really lose since the only person that could beat him was himself. Honestly, this fight was an incredible 3-chapter run. Reading it weekly was so much fun, and seeing Takamura pull out some crazy feat every chapter was really entertaining. However, there is some contention about the way the fight ended, and I wanted to give my thoughts on that. I've seen a lot of people say that Uzuki copying Takamura's personality is just plot armor, and another case of a character being too strong so the author just needs an easy way to get rid of them. And I have also seen a lot of people say that Uzuki getting Takamura's personality was foreshadowed all the way back in chapter 82 when Mafuyu sees Uzuki mumbling in a room by himself. I personally never saw it that way, and I think the incoherent mumbling is more a way to show that Mafuyu can't clearly understand what Uzuki is saying, but I do see where some people get the interpretation. As a whole, I do think Takamura's death was done a little too quick and would have preferred if he was able to stick around as the JA's boogeyman, but I understand that his presence might have been a little too restricting for the story. As for Uzuki's whole personality copying thing, I think we'll have to wait for further explanation as to how it works before I pass judgment. If it really does just take some trauma for Uzuki to instantly copy someone's personality, then I'd say it's far too strong, but as of right now, we just don't know. All in all though, Takamura truly ran a generational 1v5, and I just wanted to recount how cool it was.